Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the launch event.
Sarah, I believe you're accidentally on mute.
I'm not. Every time I speak, it says somebody has muted you. So I apologize. It's not me doing it. It just says you have been muted. So I apologize, everybody. I don't know who's muting me. Let me try again. Hello and welcome to the launch event for the Qorus Embedded Insurance Community, brought to you in partnership with Allianz Partners. Aim of this community is to connect financial services leaders interested in capitalizing on the opportunities presented to the insurance industry by embedded finance. We will do that through a series of online and physical events that bring to life best practices and offer ways for you to connect to your peers, as well as by sharing bespoke content on the subject matter. I'm going to give you a little bit more of an insight into what we're going to be doing today, but before that, I'm just going to hand over to my colleague Lukasz to highlight how our communities work here at Qorus.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Welcome, everyone. We are really pleased actually to have this inaugural, as we called it, event or launching event of the embedded insurance community. Already our sixth one that we introduced in Qorus within the last, I think, 3 years. So we all know why embedded insurance is the hot topic these days, and we have a wonderful panel of speakers for today that will share some of the insights on how they do it in their institution and why they see a huge hype around this for not just this year, but for the future to come. Shortly to introduce you the embedded insurance community and what's behind. Our intention is to put together an online group which combine physical and online events, as Sarah mentioned, including member-to-member interaction, including some of the key highlights and insights we are going to bring you on a daily basis around key 4 topics: mobility, travel, health, and cybersecurity. We are introducing this community with one of our key partner and very active player on the embedded insurance space globally, Allianz Partners. And we are really pleased that we will combine some of the very best insights through all our initiatives. We encourage you from the very beginning to be part of this community because, it won't cost you from the very beginning anything, but you will be able to get insights on the latest news, on the latest events, on the latest interaction that are happening inside the community. So follow the QR code in front of you, or just go on the Qorus website and you will be guided later on. To give you a big picture that we follow up, on a couple of slides that we have here, embedded insurance is part of the whole ecosystem of communities we are building at Qorus. We connect global executives in financial services industry through 6 main communities and the topics we cover. From SME banking, digital reinvention, sustainability regulation, mobility, embedded insurance, and a separated standalone insurance community for all our members. As you might see, each of the community is being, delivered by one of our key partner that provides insights and the best practices from the industry around top-notch topics that you see as well in front of you. So we encourage, all of you to have a look at it, to somehow, explore the opportunities which lie ahead, and definitely, join Qorus and its activities. When I already mentioned how it simply works, but our intention inside community will be to produce for you the very best insights and actionable articles, interviews from embedded insurance community, going all the way to the events that will take place online, but as well physical. As an example, in 3 weeks, we'll host one in Vienna. We'll get to that. But most of all, members' collaboration. Our intention is to create a matchmaking in between peers globally and start, collaboration in between them. In the meantime, I kindly ask, everyone who is actually online, if you can just mute your microphones, because it not to interrupt, each other. Thank you so much, and thanks again, for joining. To finalize, actually, a couple of the insights that I'm presenting to you, or I'm sharing. The communities in numbers globally has grown to enormous right now heights, because we have reached 750 global executives who are already part of the membership inside Qorus communities, and you see the geographical coverage for yourself. So we are covering almost all key regions of the world and all key institutions. That's shortly, just to introduce. So we are really excited about this topic. We are really excited about this partnership with Allianz Partners, and look forward to have all of you being engaged in this community. Thank you so much, Sarah. Back over to you, because I believe we have a lot more important insights and speakers for today than just, me doing the commercial introduction.
Yes, we are going to be having, well, today, as we mentioned, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the world of embedded insurance. We've got sessions from large industry players, as well as some exciting new InsurTechs. And the aim of today's session is really to highlight the latest trends, challenges, and opportunities in the world of embedded insurance. We will deliver key insights about this business and delivery model that is arguably the future of insurance. So one report found that embedded insurance is a $2.5 trillion growth opportunity. Embedded insurance is also increasingly popular with customers. I'm sure we'll hear that from some of our speakers today. And those customers are looking to purchase insurance at the point of need. For example, at the time they purchase or hire a vehicle, or at the time they book a holiday. These customers also want purchase and claims journeys with the appropriate amount of friction and policies that are personalized and with the flexibility levels that match the rest of their lives, the way they work, the way they travel, and the way they relax. So without further ado from me, I'd like to introduce our first speaker today, who is Jean-Marc Pellion, Head of Global Strategic Partnerships at Allianz, where he's been for over 8 years. Before that, he spent 21 years in the banking sector at board level, working for several French groups on business development, marketing, and audit. So Jean-Marc, over to you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. So very honored to have been invited to do the introduction speech. I will try not to be too long, which is a challenge for me because I love to talk about this topic, and I try to give you my own insight, not just as an Allianz board member, but also as a financial guy for the past more than 30 years. So as you said, I worked a long time in the banking industry. I've worked a long time in the insurance industry, and I always managed distribution strategy or marketing topics for the past 40 years, 38 years to be precise. And I've seen the chance to have seen the evolution of this embedded insurance topic. And we usually forget that it's not a new topic. Everybody is now talking about that. It's a buzzword. Embedded is a buzzword, but embedded is there for the past more than 40 years. We all know that we have embedded insurance in our credit card, in our debit card, which in 100% of them, by the way, everywhere in the world. We sometimes forget that on the process side, and just to take France as an example, the loan insurance is mandatory to have a loan to buy a flat or a house, and it allowed the banks in France to have more than 85% of the market, showing that when it is embedded in the process, it works. And the airline companies have already launched their insurance coverage in the booking path for the past 30 years, and now I can give you the figure. It's more than 15% of the travels which are bought with an insurance added to the ticket price. I will not talk about the ticket insurance, but there are many examples of that for the past 40 years. So why I asked me the question why embedded insurance became so important at the moment, and why everybody is talking about that, on the insurance side, on the banking side, but also on the automotive side, in the travel industry side. In each and every segment, everybody is trying to put embedded insurance somewhere. So I have 4 topics, 4 reasons in my mind which justify this evolution. The first one is the need of the companies to increase their incomes and to increase their profit. Embedding insurance is a fantastic way to increase your income and to improve your profit. As we have the capacity now, and those companies have the capacity now because of the evolution of the market to propose a more broader solution to their clients. So the first reason for that is really a very, let's say, cynical reason. How is it possible currently to make money and to make profit outside of our core value proposition? First reason. The second one is, from my point of view, even more important. It's the digitization of this world. The more digital becomes the world, the easier is to integrate these type of solutions in the value proposition we propose to our clients, and the more we can embed it in the customer journey. And we have many examples of that, and it has many consequences, not just on the way we organize the digital customer journey of our client and customers, but also it opened the door to new actors coming on the market, and we can see more and more companies using this opportunity to provide new approach, new solution, digital layers, digital approach, pure digital approach, which allow them to add additional value, to add value to what the companies are proposing. So second reason, digitalization. And I think that the more we go in the digital world, the more we will have this notion of embedded, in this case insurance, but it could be services, it could be many other products embedded in the client journey. The third one, which is from my point of view, even more important, is the evolution of the client needs. And the first one on my side is the need of the clients to be more and more reassured. So we talk about insurance, but the objective of insurance is to reassure the client at the end of the day. I can talk about the COVID impact. The COVID had this pandemic had a huge impact on the needs of the clients to insure their travel or their tickets or their hotel rooms. When you have a cancellation and you don't know when the cancellation can come, you need to be insured. You want to have reimbursement because the cost is high, and you want to be sure that you will not spend the money without having a chance to recover this money if you have a problem at the last moment. And we have seen, for example, in the travel industry, that the conversion rate on when we propose a travel insurance has increased and has doubled in the past 5 to 6 years, which is a huge impact. It's the same for ticketing. The ticketing market, for example, is increasing like hell. We are at a level which is by far more important on ticket purchase than what it was before the COVID crisis. And because of that, of course, the people buy tickets. The tickets are more and more expensive, and even in the new generation, or specifically in the new generation, these people want to be reassured and want to be sure that if they have a problem at the last minute, they will have the capacity to recover the money they have paid for the tickets. And by the way, it creates a new need for a new product. And now we are talking about insurance for and cancellation for any reason or any cause, which was something absolutely not credible 5 years ago. So it's just an example of this new approach and new need based on this necessity to be reassured. And the second need coming from the client is based on the mega trend we see on the market, which is from ownership to usage. The more you use things, the more you go on the usage base, the more you need to have a subscription approach and the capacity to pay with one fee the full bench of product, services, coverage you imagine to have. Let's take, for example, 5 years ago, e-scooters were nowhere. Today, e-scooters are one large part of the mobility ecosystem, one main tool you can use to move from point A to point B. And now, if we take this specific mobility segment, insurance is covering 3.7 billion of minutes in Europe. Just in Europe, 3.7 billion of minutes. Of course, when you rent or when you pay for a minute an e-scooter, you have the price of the renting, but you have also the coverage, you have also the warranty inside, everything is paid and everything is covered with this fully embedded solution and fully embedded price. So this notion of subscription is increasing like hell. And we can see that also in the car industry. Let's take the example of Lynk & Co. Lynk & Co is a brand new OEM, which is not selling car, which is just giving usage of the car. Of course, when you give usage of the car, you ask for a fee per month in this case. In this fee per month, you have the price of the vehicle, but you have also the insurance, you have also the warranty, and you have also the roadside assistance, plus all the services linked to that. So this subscription approach, this usage-based approach, becomes more and more important, and it is by default increase the necessity to have the insurance embedded into the price. So it's a second point, very important, the need of reinsurance and the need of having all the services and products fully embedded in the price of this subscription-based model. And the last one is, I would say, a negative one. And we usually forget to talk about that. And it's very extremely important because this embedded approach becomes more and more important. We see the regulators starting to enter into this topic and starting to produce some new rules to manage this embedded approach. Let's take one example. The European Commission has decided to limit the level of commission paid to the intermediary, paid to the B client in this B2B2C approach, to 50%. So this has a huge impact on the market. Another example, the level of loss ratio. So the regulator is entering into this embedded world to regulate it and to make it more, from their point of view, adapted to the client needs. So it means that it becomes so important that it's not just a marketing topic, it's not a communication topic, it's not just a product topic, it's just not an offer topic, but it becomes a regulatory topic, which shows the importance of this embedded world and the evolution there to this embedded approach. So for the mobility ecosystem, because this is the main topic, what means insurance in the mobility ecosystem? I will not enter into the detail of that. I will just give you some highlight from my point of view, again, with a lot of humility. The first point is that it allows insurers, and it allows the partners, and it allows also the bankers to create and to build new offers. Completely different. I was talking about this cancellation for any reason or cancellation for any case. So this is typically new. It was absolutely not in the mindset of the people even 5 years ago. Just one example. A new example of these new offers, which is linked to a new approach of the pricing. What LACA is doing, you will have the chance to have Toby talking about LACA. The approach of LACA is not on the product, it's on the way you calculate the pricing of this offer. It's brand new, it's completely disruptive, and it opens new doors on the way to price an embedded offer. And there are many examples like that. I will not enter into the detail. The new approach as well, linked to what I said on this pricing structure, is the fact that if you want to embed an insurance into a digital journey of or a customer digital journey, you're obliged to use the data you have. You're obliged to change the way you quote for insurance. And we have all these questions around fast quoting, asking the minimum question you need to ask to be sure that it will be very fluid, very flexible in the digital journey for the customers, because the customer will have the chance and will have the necessity to purchase. So it means that we move step after step with this embedded approach from a process where we sell a product in a push way to a process where the client or the customer purchase the offer on a pull way. So from push to pull is also something which is extremely important within this embedded approach. We have also the necessity to understand how we can manage individual needs with a fleet approach. This is something which is brand new as well. Usually when we are talking about fleet, we are talking about fleet for companies. Now we are talking about fleet for countries. We are talking about fleet for an OEM. And we have to manage this fleet approach with a traditional retail way of doing things, because the price has to be adapted to each and every driver. So it asks new questions, drastic changes. It creates drastic changes in the way we calculate the price, in the algorithm we use, and even in the way we approach the needs of our partner. And it has also a big impact on the way we sell the products. It's more and more online, it's more and more digital, it's more and more embedded. The processes are merged in a full digital journey for the clients. We can also talk about the way to sell it in the car, for example, and we are working, and the insurers are working with this notion of bring your own device. As soon as you bring your own device in the car becomes your smartphone, your car becomes your tablet, meaning that you can do in your car exactly what you did before with your smartphone. It has very positive impact. It means that you can buy things in the car. Let's imagine that you drive to the airport and you have a proposition coming from the on your screen in the car to buy a travel insurance for your travel. It's something we can do today. It was absolutely not possible even 5 to 6 years ago. It's brand new. It's a new approach, a new world, a blue ocean on which we have to discuss. It's fully embedded and it's fully adapted to the client. And of course, it creates also some concerns, because as soon as you bring your own device in the car, you bring your own risk in the car, meaning that we have to think about this notion of cyber risk. As soon as you have your smartphone in the car, you bring your cyber risk from the smartphone to the car, with the consequences we know. The car is connected. The car is sometimes autonomous, not completely, but partially autonomous. It means that you open the door to a hacker. It means that you need to embed the cyber insurance in the car. And last but not least, I was talking about subscription. This notion of subscription is a brand new approach on the sales point of view. You need, of course, to propose a product which will be globally relevant for the client and which will embed what is necessary for the client, but what is just necessary for the client, meaning that you need to be more and more adapted in your offer to the client specificities of the client needs, meaning as well that you need to have an access to the data coming from the cars or coming from any other database to be able to immediately structure and adapt the solution to the client needs. So this is what I wanted to give you as an highlight and to start the discussion, because I know that you will have several presentations during the meeting. But I think that this notion of embedded is the importance of this notion of embedded is really think to a global change in the world, to a global change in the society, which is pulled by this digital revolution in which we live at the moment for the past 20 years and probably for the next 20 years. So digitization is a key point. Evolution of the client needs is a key point. Evolution, necessity to enlarge the scope of the revenues for a company is a key point, specifically for the OEMs. All of these elements are now impacting the market and will impact the market even more in the next 10 to 20 years. So this is why this embedded topic is so important and becomes so important now, even if it started years ago. So this is what I wanted to tell you as an introduction in a nutshell. I hope I was not too long, and I hope that I inspire you some question and I open the door to the next discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jean-Marc. That was perfectly timed. Perfect timing. So yes, if anybody does have any questions for Jean-Marc, please do raise your hand, chat, or get in touch with us. We are going to put one of our poll questions up just in a minute, which is, which aspect of embedded insurance are you most interested in learning about? And I would invite all of our audience to respond to that. But Jean-Marc, what are you most interested in learning about from our community as we build and we meet more often?
I think that the more people we have in the community, the more requests we'll have, the more remarks we'll have, the more examples we will be able to work on, and the more showcases, successful or not successful showcases we'll have. I think that we say in French that the light is coming from the discussion, and this is what I'm waiting for from this community. The more discussion we'll have, the more open will be this discussion, the more light we'll have, and the more light we'll have, the more easier it will be to build and to structure the path to the future. I have personally several questions. I'm struggling to understand how it's possible to manage these regulatory constraints. Just to give you an example, I faced personally huge difficulty during the COVID crisis to adapt the solution we had to insure travel based on COVID. Travel ticket cancellation with regulation which is local and which makes impossible the creation of a global solution to provide to a global partner. This is one of the questions I have. How is it possible to work on that? How is it possible to align if there are some solutions, local solutions, and so on? And there are plenty of questions like that because of this, I say, boiling market in which we are concerning embedded. So what I'm waiting for, discussion, ideas, questions, and things like that.
Perfect. Yes, I think that the whole point of the communities we have here at Qorus is to enable people to talk to each other and just share what worked and what didn't work for them and what ideas they have. So that's going to be very exciting to see over the next few months and weeks. I believe we have a response from the poll question. I'm not in control. I'm not driving here, so hopefully somebody can show us. Here we go. So if you could vote, which aspect of embedded insurance are you most interested in learning about? Okay, she says. So let's have a look. It's still moving around. I think revenue potential is winning, and I don't think that's a surprise to many people. Oh, and integration with existing platforms. Well, that's perfect if we're talking about partnerships. So what we'll do is we'll continue looking at these and they'll continue gathering in the background. And then as we come to the end of today's session, hopefully we'll have a little bit of time to address the responses. We've got another poll question coming up slightly later on. But I think for now it's battling it out, but we've got a couple of clear winners. So we'll address those later on. But for now, I want to say thank you so much to you, Jean-Marc. That was a fascinating way to start the day. You've covered an awful lot of topics. You've given us an awful lot of ideas. I look forward to picking up on them as we continue. So next up, I'm just going to let the Slido continue doing its thing. Our next point of view comes from Marcus Collett, the partner at CVA, where he leads the automotive downstream and mobility platform, which addresses transformational challenges within that ecosystem. So Marcus, I'm going to hand over to you now.
Yes, thanks a lot, Sarah, and obviously Emilia Bradley, associate partner in our London office, is going to show some slides. I just want to do a small introduction, and it's not going to be contradictory with what Jean-Marc says, because I think we share this passion of mobility and on the way forward. And basically, I think to summarize it in perhaps a sentence, embeddedness is good. Now, why is it good? Because it's good for the client in terms of simplification. It's also good for the distributor, simply because it helps actually build up a business model which is much more integrative. And we see this in our consulting activity in a lot of sectors, in tourism and telecoms, but even in wealth management, looking at people who have more than 20, 30 million of available assets. They also want to get rid of technicalities and complexity. So embeddedness is actually a real element of, I think, maturity of economic models. Now, specifically in mobility, the starting point is that mobility is actually something very complicated. You know, we may not be actually aware of it because we have our car and we know how to rent a car and so on. But in mobility, you have the complexity of choosing a product. You have different mobility modes, like metros, like trains, like cars. You have usage models like subscription, like rental with different durations. There's an asset you need to manage, you need to purchase, you need to sell. There are services to add, there are accidents to manage. There's a question of reliability. So basically, if you look at the components of mobility, this is very complicated. So embedding elements like insurance make a lot of sense, but it's not easy to embed it, because a bit as what Jean-Marc said, you need to have an adapted product. You need to set up a sales process that is adapted. You need to know the customer. You need data. You need to price it. You need to have digital capabilities. You actually also need to know the value chain and even the ecosystem. So embeddedness is something which in the end is there to simplify and complete, but the setup is actually quite complicated. On the other hand, it is part of the natural trajectory of mobility, where mobility is going to, and Emilia is going to show you some of the elements of our conviction where this finds its place in mobility.
Yep. So I just pull something up, 1 second.
Yeah, coming up.
Yeah.
It's there.
Okay. Yeah, so only a couple of slides, but just to put a bit in context, and as Mark said, I think it resonates a lot with the points that Jean-Marc mentioned and the kind of overall embeddedness within insurance. So just this first one, obviously there are different changes going on in the insurance value chain in and of itself. And where you see, obviously, in terms of ways of selling, sales and distribution is where we really see the point on embeddedness. Where we go from, let's say, more of a more clear-cut two-tier approach in mobility, which is either let's say dealer-based distribution, simple sales of cars with some countries where insurance can be attached, some not, to a distribution model which is much more varied and complicated, and where policies that embed in mobility offers make more and more sense for a lot of different reasons. And I think if we talk about why embeddedness in mobility matters right now, I think, again, I agree with the point that it's not a new concept. So having warranty, extended warranty in the sales process is something that has been around for a very long time, which all OEMs have partners and work on and do. But at the moment, the combination of factors, which are digitization, which are the OEMs trying to control the full customer journey, partially because they see value in it, which is what you see on the bottom right-hand side, that they realize that they've been very focused on the left-hand side, the production and the sales, but there's an awful lot of value that customers get out of vehicles and assets that go much beyond what they can get on pure metal margin. So there is a revenue component to it, but there's also a necessity component to it. So with things like EV, with the fact that the assets themselves behave in a different way, with the fact that the economics are structurally different, the OEMs themselves are trying to make sense of it. And the way that they make sense of it is trying to use those assets for longer, to treat them as a fleet, to control them in their second life cycles. And for that, they also need simpler products for their customers. And that is what you see here on this graph. When we look at where the market is going in mobility, those, let's say, very basic finance products, which are loans against an asset for a customer who then keeps the car as long as they want and sells it when they feel like it, are decreasing across the board in Europe. And where growth is coming is from what we call usership products. So that's at the moment still primarily operating lease, but also subscription, also more flexible mobility. And those products naturally encourage embeddedness, because the whole point of them for the customer is they're a one-stop long-term usage solution, which means the customer doesn't want to look separately for a one-year insurance contract. They don't want to look separately for selective maintenance services. They don't want to look separately for a battery warranty if it's a used EV, but they want one package, one price, one purchase mode. And that obviously means that in the mobility ecosystem, players are very much looking right now at partnerships across the board, but embedded products is one of the places where they're really looking for partners who can work with them to build this integrated product and this integrated customer journey, which they can sell seamlessly to customers who at the end of the day want something very simple that provides them with a need that they have for mobility, which can be very flexible a long time. And I think what we just show here on the other slide is to give some examples. So I think embeddedness is a space which is quite broad in mobility. These ones are, I guess, slightly closer to, let's say, monetization right now. I think there's a lot of different experimentation going on in products that can provide embedded value in mobility. But it gives you an indication also of the development. So if you look on the left-hand side on the services, which is maybe a bit more closer to the pure mobility part of the value chain, you see the, let's say, transition that has been going on. So if you take telematics, for example, telematics, when it first came onto the scene, was something that was, let's say, piloted with insurers, which was optional, which was looked at maybe as a fleet product. Now it's becoming completely fundamental to the OEM. So you take the example of GM with their OnStar products. It's not even an option anymore. It's for quite a lot of their, let's say, core lineup, a mandatory subscription that's already priced into the sales price of the car, whether you use it or not. So it's immediately become embedded. The notion of an additional telematics product doesn't exist for GM anymore. If you look at also on the services side, for example, Ivans is one of the big leasing companies. They've started off with an embedded product, which includes service packages for B2B customers. And in the B2B space, it's a very standard product which has existed for many years. But now it's also a standard product for personal customers, and which is expected to increase. And you see here just it's a very tiny screenshot, but it shows you that it just automatically includes when you do the quote, the maintenance, the road fund, roadside assistance, delivery. You can add different options depending on the country, but it's very much a one package model. And that is only going to increase across Europe. So I think on the services side, it's probably more mature. You then have the whole warranty component of embeddedness, which obviously is well known to insurers in terms of, let's say, the more traditional extended warranty services. I think where we start to see now more extended products, which I think are still in testing, is more on the EV side. So everything, again, around certainty towards customers on batteries for EVs is incredibly valuable. It's still relatively nascent. You see some players like Altelium who have built a battery health test and then extended it also into insurance products. So payouts, for example, on state of health degradation based on used car life cycle. And then there are some interesting partnerships going on there. For example, they are actually partnering with Gardex, which is not a distributor itself, but it's an integrated customer journey solution for the retailers. So by embedding themselves into the, let's say, digital solution, they automatically become available as a practical product solution for the retailers as well. And then you have on the right-hand side, I guess, more the closer to the traditional vehicle insurances, which have been refined in order to better meet the needs of customers in terms of embedded insurance in flexible mobility. So you have Risk, for example, who are doing the insurance for BP. So BP is a subscription offering that Renault has, which can be very flexible in terms of duration, anything from 1 month up to, I think, 18 months. And by fully embedding the insurance into that, it means that you can have a rolling subscription, a rolling pricing. The customer themselves doesn't have to go and try and find a non-standard insurance contract for the flexible use of the car. And you see a similar thing with Carvana, where Carvana obviously is one of the leaders in, let's say, testing new used car purchase modes. And they, again, have a partnership with Root, which is the embedded provider for them for all insurances, rental and roadside assistance. So I think what you see here from a mobility perspective is there are some things which are not new, which are core products of the ecosystem where embeddedness has existed for a while. I think let's say the strength of embeddedness is increasing. And then there are other areas which, based on more structural changes, like in the rise in EVs and what does EV mean for customers, and again, how do you reassure customers on new products, there's still quite some space for both testing and for leveraging opportunities to increase that embeddedness. And I think the one thing probably I would at least end on is OEMs and distribution players in mobility today are really open and really looking to how can they work collectively with partners in order to build this really integrated, seamless product that helps them to manage their assets, but also makes life easy for the customer. And obviously that is where embedded insurance products of more traditional and more newly developing themes are very important to the value chain.
Thank you very much, both. My apologies, Amelia, for not introducing you. I didn't have your bio in front of me, so that's
fine.
I apologise. So we now have the results from our first poll question to share, I believe. So if we get those up on the screen, I would like to ask, the three speakers we've already had, or indeed, any of the speakers yet to come, what are your thoughts on this? That the most interesting thing to our respondees, of whom we had over 50, was integration with existing platforms. I mean, that seems to tie in quite well with what you were just saying there, Amelia. I don't know if anybody else wants to comment on that, or if you want to go first.
I can comment if you want. Just to confirm that is probably one of the main constraints, if not the main one, because of the the specificities of our IT legacy system in the companies, which are not built with this aim. And that's why it's so important to have the capacity to find partners on the market, specifically digital layers, or partners to address specific segments, to be in a position to deliver what the final clients need. And depending on the way you embed, just to give, because we need to be open and honest and share the info, on embedded insurance in Allianz, I take my Allianz cap. Depending on the country, if I take UK, for example, where we have fully embedded insurance into the process, into the digital process, we have a conversion rate which is above 50%, around 57%. In Germany, where we had not the capacity to embed it fully in the client digital journey, we are below 20%, meaning that this topic is linked to the last one, to the revenue potential. When you have this quality of integration, you are by far much more successful than what you just add to what you have, a solution which is on top. Just to give an input coming from us.
Thank you. Does anybody else care to comment on that? No. Studious silence. Well, I have got a couple of questions for Marcus and Emilia from our audience, if you're up for it. So the first one is, I think, related to one of the slides you were sharing, but it says, what does GM represent in Europe since its brands are under the Stellantis group?
I can perhaps pick this up. Now, there have been here, obviously, they exited and the brands now belong to Stellantis. I mean, they are now re-entering Europe with a different sales model. So you know, I think the reason why we mentioned this is more that we think that it is a policy, it's a strategy of a player, which we think has chances of generalizing. You know? So they've been betting very early on telematics and integration within the vehicle, building up an ecosystem, even launching on-star insurance and so on. So we think that this makes tremendous sense in terms of integrating this into an ecosystem. That's why you mentioned it. And you know, we know also that there are attempts by quite a few players also to build up similar systems here in Europe. So that's why we mentioned it.
Thank you. Sorry, my internet dropped out there for a minute there, so I do apologise. I have an issue with my internet when it rains, the internet goes away, which tells you a lot about British infrastructure. There you go. And then one other question for you, Marcus and Emilia, which was, are those programs international? And if so, how did they manage to standardise MTPL covers across borders?
So most of them are still national solutions. I mean, for example, BP with Risk is international in the sense that they have BP in multiple countries, but it's not a cross. Let's say a customer is always using one policy in one country, so it's not that it's the same customer in France and Germany using one standard contract. So to that extent, they've built up a per country model with one insurer in this case, which they, I guess, have some advantage to in the sense of not being incumbents, that they are very slowly adding on country by country in that case, which means it's not a big bang solution that they had to have a new subscription-based insurance model for 20 countries, but they started in 2 and they've gradually rolled out to 5 now.
And perhaps just adding on to this, just very briefly, there's a very strong trend of standardizing a maximum, right? So even if there are international differences, this now is really everyone is trying to box those in to a minimum and then focus on the commonalities in terms of customer journey, business model, and so on, and then leave the some bits that also Jean-Marc mentioned in terms of regulation to be treated locally. But there's really an overriding trend to have international solutions.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Emilia and Marcus. I hope you'll stick around for the rest of the session because at the end, we're going to hopefully have a panel discussion with all our speakers today. But in the meantime, could I ask everybody to please have a look at our second poll question here, which is, which potential barrier do you think could hinder the widespread adoption of embedded insurance? And we've already touched on a lot of these, but I think the regulatory challenges would be the one that It's standing out most to me. So if you could all have a go at that. And then in the meantime, what we will do is we'll move on to our next speaker, which is Toby Taupitz, CEO and co-founder of Laka. Laka is an organization that's looking to build a global green mobility insurance partner. Toby has an insurance and banking background, like almost everybody else here today. So lots of expertise behind his career and his company. And without further ado, Toby, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and hi, everyone. I'm just going to pull up my slides, and in the meantime, we'll just start talking. Nice meeting you all virtually and remotely to talk about embedded insurance. And I think a couple of points were already made by previous speakers, and specifically around what is embedded insurance and what is what are we hoping to accomplish with that. I think there's a big trend on the one hand as a revenue stream, as income to the company, but also we are seeing increasingly the use case of improved services. So not necessarily either or, but I think very clearly lining out what want to be accomplished is really important here. The slides are loading, and in the meantime, yeah, just a few words about Laka. We are a UK and Netherlands-based business now serving retail customers in 7 countries across Europe. And we have the use case of what we call green mobility, starting with the lovely world of bikes, e-bikes, and cargo bikes, and exploring use cases left and right of that. Sorry. Just if someone could just let me know if you can see my screen now. I lost the picture here.
We can see it now. It's good, Toby.
Yeah.
Much appreciated. Teams is a little bit slow for me this morning, but here we are. So yeah, we are focusing on green mobility across D2C, B2B2C, and D2C customers. And as Jean-Marc kindly already alluded to, with a slightly different business model where we no longer charge premiums upfront, but charge customers retrospectively at the end of the month based on the actual cost of claims. But that's not the topic for today. Today, we're talking about embedded insurance. And yes, we've brought some case studies with me. From various levels of integrations. We are a European-based business, as mentioned, with a lot of backing from mobility investors, which must make sense given our focus. But really lovely to talk about all things embedded insurance with you. So let me try and delve straight in. So we are seeing a wide range of embedded insurance. I think it's this kind of big term these days where nobody really knows what it means or have different levels of interpretation for all of that. But there's really a different level of depth or complexity of all of that. And that can start with very light touch referrals all the way to fully all bells and whistles embedded implementation programs. So one example could be partner referrals, introducer agreements very often where there's a reference to a landing page. The customer lands there through a flyer or an online journey, an online reference. And examples in the world of Laka, for example, are partnerships with UK retailers Sigma Sports, but also Decathlon. And don't you worry, I'm going to pick all of them up in a minute in a bit more detail. So I'm flying just through the overview. And the next level of integration are what we see in our space, packaged up services. So for example, we partnered up with Riese Müller recently, a big e-bike brand in Germany, to actually at the point of sale, they sell a hardware, a bike, a high-end e-bike, often between 5,000 to 7,000 euros. And what they do is offering a package on top with various service elements, from data to bike recovery if the bike is stolen, all the way to insurance. And with that, there are these optional packages to select from on top, but deeply integrated into the purchasing journey, which again makes it quite seamless for the customer. And then last but not least, maybe the flagship partnership for Laka is fully embedded propositions, where we are working and moving away from an income play for the partners to a service play, a true peace of mind proposition, where actually the company decided we want to give customers peace of mind. Let me embed insurance, theft insurance in that case, in the purchase of every single e-bike, connected e-bike that is sold. And I'm going to talk about that more in detail. But needless to say, the deeper the integration, the more complex it is, but also the higher the reward in terms of conversion and perceived benefit. starting with Sigma Sports. So they are a UK high-end bike retailer with many stores in the UK, but also a significant online platform. And they really wanted to offer their customers a best-in-class proposition for the bikes that range from anything £3,000 to £10,000, for example. They chose us because Laka is a specialist. We are not a horizontal player offering various use cases across the industry, but decided early on that we really want to laser focus on one industry, on one green mobility segment, to really apply our expertise from claims handling all the way to understanding customers really, really well. And with that, we actually then went on to do the typical play for a referral scheme, introducer agreement style, where customers can sign up using QR codes at the point of sale, but also through the website. And actually, you will see with the screens, for example, the very small screenshot, that Sigma Sports really played along. They really kind of nicely position the materials. They're easy to pick up by the customer. And we are shown on the screens and store all these things. And that's working for a retail proposition quite well in terms of conversion. So a bit ominous, but the conversion, as you would expect in a retail play, we're probably talking low teens in terms of conversion, but nicely implemented and functioning well. And again, testament by the brand of Sigma, for example, that 53% of their customers open the communication if sent to them. So I think it's just a good example of if it's designed front to end across all touch points, pre-sale, post-sale, that even in an offline world, which is usually not seeing as high as conversions as online, you can achieve something quite nice. The next level of integration, for example, is a partner that is Decathlon. Many of you will know, one of the largest, if not the largest, sports retailers in the world. And we have partnered in several areas with them. For example, if you go to a UK store, you will see in the bike area lots of Laka advertisement. But equally, we have launched with them through a mobility app where if you buy a connected e-bike in a Decathlon store currently in Belgium, France, and the Netherlands, you get offered insurance through a push notification to actually, again, drive the take-up. And I think what was really important early on, the cross-border element. Many of our partners, retailers, OEMs, manufacturers, and the likes, sell bikes for that matter globally. They don't care for insurance regulations. That's our job. So it was very important to us that we can actually work with partners across multiple territories, serving retail customers, which comes with a lot of complexities, of course, as you all will know all too well. But we've actually were chosen because of these capabilities from a tech perspective, but also cross-border and implementing seamlessly into the Decathlon mobility app, for example. On the right-hand side, you just see again the offline world where Laka is prominently featured at the point of sale. But then, of course, between offline sales, online sales on the Decathlon UK website, for example, all the way to the mobility app, conversion improves unsurprisingly. And yeah, we launched this in 4 countries with Decathlon currently, and the conversion, but I kept the arrow somewhat flat, is already looking better than what we talked about with Sigma Sports, for example, because of the deep app integration. When you download the app to actually control your GPS signal, the battery status of your high-end e-bike, you actually take note of the push notification through the app, and that helps, of course. And then 2 more, when we now go towards Riese & Müller, they call it connected care packages. So what it means is, again, at the point of sale, you are being offered different packages that includes auxiliary services such as GPS tracking data and insurance. And again, Riese & Müller needed a partner that allowed them to launch in multiple countries. So this proposition went live in the Netherlands, Belgium, and France on day 1, so to speak. And at the point of checkout in the web journey, for example, you're being offered these packages. And it's actually really nicely and well integrated. It's highly Riese & Müller branded. So a lot of brand trust comes on the back of that. And then unsurprisingly, conversion rate shoots up. And we are seeing then a third of the customers or so choosing such a package. And that depends, again, on the country, on level of sophistication of the value of the bike, lots of parameters we are playing with. But again, it's a big journey, test, learn, iterate all the way, I suppose. And then last but not least, one of our flagship partnerships, as mentioned, is Pon Group, one of the largest bike sellers, manufacturers in the world, owning dozens of, well, 16 bike brands, I believe. So we launched with Gazelle, one of the oldest bike brands possibly in the world, not in the Netherlands. And they're one of the front runners and leaders on all things connected e-bikes. So when you have a GPS tracker connected to your bike, and the play changes now in terms of line of thinking. So where we before saw largely in the beginning of the scale an income play with a service element attached, this has now been inverted, and now we're talking purely a service element. If you sell a 5,000 euros bike, you want to give customers peace of mind. One of the biggest friction points for spending that money on a bike is theft. In a world where we now see this theft increasingly going up as the value of the bikes go up, unsurprisingly. And with that, it was concluded that as an instrument to actually drive sales, to actually embed the proposition fully into the journey. And with that, what Gazelle decided to do is to include 12 months of free theft insurance in the purchase of every connected e-bike they sell. And with that, customers don't have to worry about where to source it from initially, and just can be sure that they have protection for their, again, high-end e-bike. And after the 12 months, they can take the cover optionally on top of that on their own. And again, the journey lies here in a neatly integrated app integration. So all these connected e-bikes come with apps, mobility apps, which is really powerful. Again, you download those because you want to track the battery status, the GPS signal, all these things. Mark your bike as stolen if it comes to it. And here you have the moment you download the app and confirm with a click, OK, you are insured for 12 months of theft insurance, and you only have an opt-out proposition here. And with that, unsurprisingly, the conversion is very, very high. We're probably talking now 3/4 in terms of take up, which is amazing for us as a use case. That went live in the Q4 last year, and the next few use cases are about to launch as well. So it's quite amazing in terms of customer service. It's an upsell element. We already got feedback from dealers that customers opt in to buy the more expensive bike because that becomes with, or model rather, because that comes with the additional protection. So dealers has also discovered that as an upselling tool. And with that, of course, the dealer is also better off earning higher margin for selling a higher end bike than the lower end model, so to speak. So I think that is very much where the future lies. I think I have some takeaways I want to share with you. 3 of them are quite profane and simple, and 2 maybe a little bit more I will elaborate on. But unsurprisingly, the stronger commitment, the better the results. So the more time is spent, the more thorough the use case, the more resource are put in on both ends, the better the results. I think you all have probably had experiences with mail shots. That just doesn't work to the extent some might expect. But of course, if you go all the way, designing a customer-centric journey with deep integration, you see the results. Maybe again, a very practical topic that I also had to learn in a way, that nothing beats a kickoff meeting in person. We had partnerships where the partner insisted, let's do it all virtually. And you wouldn't believe how wide of an interpretation embedded insurance allows between 2 parties. So yeah, very trivial, but just aligning from the get-go what is meant to be built and have a common understanding. Nothing beats that at the start of a project. And of course, allow ample time to test, learn, and iterate, because no partnership is the same. There are blueprints. We can standardize different journeys along the way with API libraries and all the good stuff, but you always need to twist and tweak, I suppose. The last 2 are quite close to my heart. Sorry, the last one here on that front is also, of course, account management begins. So the moment you have a successful partnership going live, the hard work has been done in terms of integrations, and now is then just growing the account. But it's really amazing to see how quickly the mood changes from a hectic launch to a, oh, this is amazing, let's figure out what else we can do, quite organically. It was picked up by the colleagues from CVA already, but I think embedded insurance very often has the notion of it's all about distribution. And let's have a slick onboarding journey. Let's lower the barriers. Let's make it very simple for the customer and just push the problem down the road, meaning customers in the past, at least increasingly so, did hardly know what they actually bought. So you have a very slick onboarding process with the click of a button, but then the fun begins because you're going to see complaints, you're going to see claims rejected, you have a bad customer experience. And of course, the bad customer experience reflects on the brand partner, not the insurance company necessarily. So I think it's quite fundamental to offer holistic approaches, including integrated claims journeys, and really take control of the journey front to end for a really good customer experience, because after all, our brand partners trust us with their customers, that we serve them very well. And I think it's quite important, as a last point before I finish my session, I think it's quite important to find an edge beyond a pure tech play in a digital world. Embedded insurance or API integrations has become quite table stakes. So I guess the question is, what else can you do to add value and also defend margins in a world where tech is the only play? You can get quite easily squeezed. So what else can you do to build a defendable moat, be hard to be replaced, and again, really offer value to both the customers and the partners? In our world, again, very specific to green mobility, we're seeing ourselves more as a platform play. On the one hand, we are an MGA, an intermediary, working with insurance carriers. On the one hand, we have partnered up with roadside assistance companies. We have partnered up with various bike recovery services. So if the bike gets stolen, a partner of ours goes out trying to recover the bike. If the bike is damaged, we partner with salvaging companies to strip the bike parts so they don't end up on the landfill. So I think it's quite important to think about the ecosystem as a whole and carve out your niche and go vertical rather than just jumping from A to B. At least in our own use case or story, that has worked out quite well. That is all I want to share with you today. Very happy to answer any questions in that regard, but thanks for the opportunity to hear me out and for being part of the session today.
Thank you so much, Toby. It's always great to see case studies and see these things actually played out, because I think we talk a lot about theory, but it's always good to see it in practice. There was one question that came in regarding the partnership between yourself and Gazelle. And the question was, well, the first part of the question is, who made the first step in this partnership? And the second part of the question is, how do you deal with different regulations?
Very good, very fair question. So I think in that case, Gazelle was quite forward-thinking, to be honest. They already had the hypothesis what they want to do. There was a certain frustration in the wider market with incumbents, especially around the use of data. In that specific use case where we have connected e-bikes, we benefit from GPS data. On the back of that, stolen bikes can be recovered. And on the back of that, you see a loss ratio decrease. You can actually discount the premiums quite well. And on the back of that, the hypothesis formed, well, if we decrease the premium quite significantly, we can actually embed the proposition. So it was a hypothesis that Gazelle developed on their own. They didn't need us to come to the conclusion. But I think we together worked out the details of it, but all credit to them making the first step in that regard. On regulations, that's of course a key point in all of this. The question was earlier around TPL, for example. Yes, that's quite a beast across multiple territories. Our use case is predominantly on first-party risk, so theft and damage, for example, which allows to harmonize a lot more easily than going country by country. So we have found structures in a way that the partner is the contractual party, and that allows us to straddle multiple territories and harmonize as much as we can across multiple countries. What is quite interesting, though, that in some instances, the premiums for the same e-bike can vary hugely between one country and the next. For infrastructure, rider savviness, and other elements. So it really comes down to having a conversation with the partner around what works for them. And then it's our job to find the right regulatory home behind all of that.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I hope you can stick around because, as I said, we're going to have a bit of a panel discussion later on. But for now, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, who is Vikesh Chiraya, founder of Indies, that aims to build a sustainable safety net for platform workers. He also has many years of experience in the insurance industry, including some time spent at AXA. So Vikesh, without further ado, it's over to you.
Thank you, Sarah. Is it possible for me to share my slides here?
I believe so. Give me 1 second. Just contact technical support. Do you have a share option?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I think I am not able to. Okay, this should work.
Yeah, we can
Yes,
see it now,
we can.
Vikash.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you, Qorus, and thank you, Sarah, for the introduction, and thanks, Qorus, for inviting. Privileged to be speaking alongside such distinguished speakers, Jean-Marc Payol and my dear friend Toby. Your journey is definitely very inspiring. So congratulations for all the work that you've done with LACA and building it out. It's not easy stuff to keep that kind of a focus that you have. So congrats. As I walked to the office today, I could not help looking up into the sky and looking at Eiffel Tower being hidden in the clouds, somewhat like a serendipity knocking me towards the topic. At Indies, we set up Indies about 3 years ago. We set up Indies with a mission to build technology railroads that could then enable embedded insurance for B2B clients. We are today headquartered in Paris and in UK. And today, as we think about, sorry, my slides are moving for everyone, I suppose so. Yeah, give me a nod. Yeah. So we are a team of about 45 people based across multiple geographies. We are licensed in France and in the UK, and essentially developing embedded insurance that we provide to our B2B clients. On one side, it could be clients such as, like what Toby spoke about, but on the other side, the clients would be insurance companies who wanted to use our technology to serve their own direct relationships, right? Our focus is essentially on 3 verticals. This is where we feel we can help simplify insurance. We are focusing on green mobility. A lot of inspiration coming from LACA there for sure. Here we are looking at transition to EV for a full range of urban mobility. So whether you're talking about 6-wheelers, 4-wheelers, 3-wheelers, 2-wheelers, etc. We are also focusing on financial services where we think we have a value to add in terms of helping financial institutions elevate the value proposition in an embedded fashion, right? These could be credit card companies, banks, payment platforms, etc. And future of work where our resident has been around safety net for platform workers. And I'm going to share 1 or 2 examples there just to add some diversity to what Toby shared and other speakers shared before. But if you see the commonality here is what has really taken us into these 3 areas is we feel that the need for addressing insurance and the need for addressing insurance in an embedded fashion is at the heart of building sustainable business models. When I say sustainable, it is really sustainable financially and to address the most urgent problem statements, right? In terms of protection gap that the users are facing. And that is inhibiting the growth of these individual sectors, right? Today, as we look at it. So that there are 3 focus for us. It is green mobility, financial services, and future of work. Today, as we look at Indies, new kids on the block, we are protecting about 500,000 workers across Europe. We have had the privilege to work with several leading small and large size platforms. These are some of the examples. We are working with, on the future of work, we are working with platforms which are white collar, blue collar, pink collar, and the mobility space, we have not announced a few clients. Again, as I said, new kids on the block will be announcing in the coming weeks and months, some interesting clients. And essentially, the way we have looked at these programs is really a B2B offering. A slight difference from what you heard Toby spoke about, a B2B2C kind of an offering. And essentially here, we encourage the platforms to be paying for these embedded benefits, and their users or their community is the end beneficiary, right? So whether it's the example of Malt, which is the leading white collar platform in Europe, fantastic services, blue collar, brown collar workers that come on the platform and find their livelihood, or Hitch, a leading mobility platform in France, where you have a lot of independent drivers coming in, like Uber, like Bolt, etc. Right? And similarly, you have other examples like Gig.ai and MediFlash, where you are looking at pink collar workers, healthcare workers that are actually coming on the platform And essentially, the way the platforms actually use the embedded benefits is to enhance the trust currency for these workers to come on the platform. Why should these workers choose these platforms to find their livelihood, or why should they use these platforms for certain services? So that embedded benefit has a very important strategic role in the growth of these platforms. So essentially, they see an insurance cost not being an operating cost, but being a strategic investment for the growth of the communities, right? Under the hood, when we think about the embedded insurance, this is a simplified view of what the Indies platform does, right? So obviously at one end, you have the insured or the beneficiary. We can actually provide these benefits through web views or through APIs into whatever client environment that is existing. For example, maybe the mobile and the desktop. And essentially, the Indies platform is therefore able to carry a series of products, whether it could be insurance products, whether it could be on the for the worker side, for the banks, which could be around travel, or around mobility space, which could be third-party liability, etc. And essentially, the platform is essentially the equivalent of a closed-loop network where we can look at the data around user profiles, data around the platforms, etc. And the middleware is able to generate in coordination with the insurance carrier, the code generation, the code delivery, etc. So this is basically under the hood, a very simplified view of what the Indies platform does from an orchestration perspective between the insurance carrier and the client, right? A Malt, very simple case study. Again, as I spoke about it, they are a leading platform in Europe, in fact, outside Europe and Middle East as well now, actually bringing together white-collar workers. So essentially, these could be developers, marketers that could be employed at a short-term notice. And the user example here is, you could have Leah, a professional event planner who could be a freelancer in the UK. As you're getting into finding these jobs, there is always a concern around civil liability, right? So in this case, because the market had a strong emphasis around civil liability, we built out a bespoke product for the malters, as they call it, for the community. And all the people are actually getting this benefit by virtue of the fact that they're working on the malt. So there is a membership effect here. And it is not just the distribution part, or what I said, the scale distribution that comes into play here, but tomorrow, as when they are looking to file a claim, it is something that we are able to provide an end-to-end digital journey for someone to come and file a claim and then track the claim on a real-time basis. At the back end, what we are doing is we provide full transparency to the insurance in terms of how the different claims are happening. So there is a benefit for the insurer. The TPA could come and actually manage the claim on our platform. The simple claims, we try to automate it as much as we can. And the more complex claim, it is handed over to the TPA for a human intervention. The platform benefits here because they can see their aggregate information at one place. Obviously, it is from a user perspective, you always know what the status of the claim is. So essentially, you're looking at a unified experience between the different stakeholders and a lot of transparency here. And at the end of the day, I think from a Malt perspective, as they are trying to attract more and more white-collar independent workers, what they are able to position this is really in terms of building the trust and building the peace of mind while they are freelancing on the Malt platform, right? So with that, I'll just pause here. I know short time, we are supposed to end at 11:15. So I'll pause there and return the mic back to you, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Tricia. Can't speak anymore. Thank you very much, Vikesh. So we are now going to move on to the results from our second poll question. I say again, I'm not driving, which if you remember, which was which potential barrier do you think could hinder the widespread adoption of embedded insurance? And it turns out that everybody agrees it's regulation. That's 51% of people think it's regulatory challenges, technological limitations at 19%, and resistance to change by commercial partners is 23%, followed by lack of awareness. Vikesh, I think you're the only person who hasn't had a chance to comment on regulatory barriers yet. Is that something that you've had to dedicate a lot of time to understanding and overcoming in your journey?
Yeah, I'll provide another perspective here on regulatory challenges. I think the clients today, as they're looking at building embedded insurance offering to enhance, the trust and peace of mind on the platform, are faced with the challenge of requalification. Right? If you think about in many of the markets, as you are introducing whether these products are paid for by the platform, there is a challenge around what does it do to the platform and what does it do to the client. So of course, we have to kind of deal with that on a case-by-case basis. In many a case, we help the clients appoint them as our representative in the markets to help them overcome that barrier. But definitely, this is a challenge in most of the B2B embedded programs. Increasingly, they being concerned around the fact that what does it do in terms of qualification of the platform. Now, whether this could be in the space of platform workers, it could be in a FSI space, or it could be in the space of mobility.
Brilliant. Well, we're going to move on to our collaborative session now. As you say, we're just going to try and make sure we finish on time. But there is a question that's come in related to those poll results, which I think would be appropriate to put to all of our speakers. So we have Toby, Amelia, Marcus, and Vikesh are still with us this morning. So the question that's come in is that there were no options related to the demand side. Isn't it that the demand still needs to be stimulated by, e.g., an intermediary? So I don't know who wants to take that one first. Nobody.
No, I
Marcus.
mean, I can perhaps give a point of view on this, that with everything we're talking about is pretty innovative right now. The thing with innovation is clients are not waking up in the moment and saying, hey, gee, I need this, because they don't know it exists, right? So basically, I think the key is that you need to make a value proposition for the end customer that makes it an imperative to go that way. And this means that you need to work together with your distribution partner in order to see how this can make sense for the end customer. And I think if this big piece of cake, this pot of gold exists, then all of the other issues in terms even of regulations, I mean, unless very extreme cases, they become technicalities. So really for me, the key is how can you make an offer so obvious or potentially even not visible, so you integrate this into the product that it is taken by the end customer. That's how I would see it.
And Toby, did you want to comment on that as well?
I can only echo that. I think it's a lot of awareness still and competing priorities in the business. We, of course, again, very subjectively hope that with recent case studies, other brands will see what's possible in the market and actually adopt that. And I think, again, very subjective to our industry. It has been characterized by a lot of overstock post-COVID. The production went up, then there's price dumping essentially. And potentially embedded insurance allows a different angle in terms of service rather than kind of entering this war of attrition, who has the biggest discount, so to speak. So I think a lot is awareness for sure, and you can create awareness by advertising case studies. It's always chicken and egg who goes first, but now that more use cases are out there, I hope it inspires the next range of product managers and commercial directors and the likes.
Mm-hmm.
I think awareness is definitely growing among people. They wouldn't necessarily know it was embedded insurance, but if you ask them, have you been offered insurance when you went to buy a product? A lot of people would go, oh yes, I have seen that now. It's a fascinating survey from Cover Genius in the UK a few years ago that said something like 68% of people would take insurance at the point of purchase for a high value item. So I think we're getting there. I think it depends on country by country basis as well. And I know you all have experience of different regions. So we have another question here. Let me just bring this up, which says, how do you see the future of embedded insurance evolving with emerging technologies, specifically AI? Are there what opportunities or challenges do you anticipate? It wouldn't be a panel in the last 2 years if I hadn't mentioned AI. So Marcus, do you want to take that one? You're smiling, or is that just at the mention of AI?
Yeah, because this is like an elephant in each of the rooms, and you need to be careful not to overhype it, right? Because if you want to use AI, there are some requirements in terms you actually need to have data, right? So you need to have digitized processes. And this is why I think it's actually becoming more mainstream, because to the extent that you have customer journeys which are becoming at least digitally led, which means you have this information available, I think the customization of the offer, the intelligence you can bring into the fact that the insurance fits the overall business model, yes, that is an AI topic, right? So you can obviously also address that with an Excel, but obviously it's going to be more, much more cost in terms of what you do. So definitely my vision is that you basically can embed an adapted, individualized insurance for everyone that optimizes the business model for the customer, the distributor, and potential other ecosystem partners. But in my complex formulation, you hear that this is going to be very specific to the context, right? So it's really an exciting topic that is coming up in the future. That's actually already there, right? So yes, definitely AI is super important here.
Yes, I think AI comes up as the elephant in the room, but as you say, it's possible to go too far with it. A lot of people say they're using AI, and what it actually is an if statement within an Excel. As somebody who receives a lot of press releases that mention, AI leading technologies, I'm getting better at picking these apart. I don't know if anybody else, Toby, Vikesh, the point that Mark has made there, part of the problem that certainly the legacy insurers have is the data to be able to use AI. Their data a lot of it's actually on paper, in my experience, let alone kind of can they clean it and use it. Presumably, obviously, with you guys with newer businesses, that's less of an issue for you. So is AI something that you are considering using in your business lines, business models, or are you already using it in the background and just not shouting about it?
Laka.ai was taken by a Vietnamese travel insurance agency, so my ship has sailed. We can do nothing in AI, I'm afraid. I think
possible.
But jokes aside, I think it augments existing operations. I think specifically insurance, there are only so many ways you can offer travel insurance and an easy chat website, I suppose. I'm more excited about the back end and an administrative piece, how you actually take out costs potentially that benefits the customer, lower prices, potentially some pricing elements. But as so often, it's an enabler, not a replacement in that specific use case for us, at least.
Yes, I think within insurance, it will be an enabler rather than a replacement for a long time to come, definitely. I don't think anybody needs to fear about their jobs in the next 12 months, certainly. Vikesh, how about you?
Yeah, I echo what Toby said. It is definitely an enabler, not a replacement. We are developing a few use cases, but I don't think so we can say that we are a AI-enabled business. But we have to try. We have to try build certain use cases. And these use cases around are not just in terms of better pricing or dynamic pricing, etc., but the use cases are in terms of where it can scale. Otherwise, it remains a laboratory experiment. We've done it, we did it, and then you're kind of postering around the city. No, none of that. I think so. I wouldn't say we have a scalable right now, a scalable AI use case. It is something that we are tinkering around. And we'll have to see how it kind of adds to the efficiency, adds to the client, and adds to the end user journey.
Yes, there's no point in just doing a straw man. You have to have a purpose for what you're experimenting on. You have to see what value it's going to bring, certainly if you've got the constraints of being a smaller, newer organization. Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. We are going to hang on. Got one last question. I don't know if anybody, we've lost your mark, so I don't know if anybody else wants to take this one. But the final question is, can anybody share some insights or experience on the bank assurance area? I know some of you have, well, all of you have backgrounds in the incumbent space, but this might not be anybody here's specialism.
I have a small one we are partnered with Monzo, for example. So you get Laka through a Monzo journey in a specific use case. I think more of the modern platforms are waking up. I think traditionally credit cards, banks, the first use case you offer as perks are travel insurance as part of your credit card, for example. And I think we're seeing more use cases beyond. So I definitely see lots and lots of angles and value add for differentiation as well. There's so many things you can add, probably health related or accident related or whatnot else in in various benefit packages. Very curious to see what's going to happen in that area in the years to come.
And perhaps just a word from my side. We actually looked at this quite a few times, and it's one of the big astonishments in my life that you actually have banks who are doing excessively well on it, and you have banks who are really lousy on it. So looking at the value potential behind it, you know, I think for every bank there's a real need to go to the limit, especially today when you have a multiplication of distribution channels. You can actually pull this pretty much out of a constraining bank relationship and offer this to your customers. So for me, this is one thing where I think that all of the banks should actually be really good, even if they're not.
Perfect. So we are running out of time. There was another question about travel, but actually what part of my role is to wrap up this session and tell everybody about what's coming next. So before I do that, I'd like to say thank you so much to all our panelists for joining us today. We really appreciate that. The upcoming events that I mentioned, I alluded to there. So the first one is our reInvent Forum in Vienna. That will be on the 20th and 21st of this month. We will be hosting a dedicated embedded insurance session on the 20th in the afternoon. That's hosted by Vienna Insurance Group. But our reInvent Forum, a lot of the attendees are from those larger financial services organizations, in particular bankers. So if bank assurance is something that you're interested in, then I would definitely point you in the direction of that event if you fancy a trip to Vienna this month. Then we have our next online event, which is on the 16th of May. That's a dedicated event for this community, embedded insurance. And it will be on the subject of cybersecurity, the roles of banks and insurance again. So, you know, if bank assurance is your thing, then do come along to that on the 16th of May. And then finally, one further physical event, which will be in Lisbon on the 6th and 7th of June. That's another reInvent Forum hosted by AGS. And we will have another dedicated embedded insurance community meetup there. In terms of travel, we do have an upcoming session that we focused on travel in the coming months. I don't know the exact date yet. But also, I would advise you, once you've joined the community, to keep an eye on our content section, where there will be a lot more information, a lot of content from our members across a variety of topics. So you can come on, you can have a look, and then you can find other people who are interested in the same topics as you. If you haven't already joined us, then you can see there's a QR code there. So please go ahead and scan that. If you have any questions or about how to join the community, or any questions about what's coming up next, then please get in touch with one of our team. So I think there's a couple more questions that have come in here. We will try and get back to you at a later date. But otherwise, as I said, thank you very much for joining us, and I hope you all have a good rest of your day.
Thank you very much. Can I just ask, is it possible to share the recording and the slides, or?
So let me get back to you on that. It depends. I don't know of our wonderful panelists today. It does depend on whether they've been spoken to or not and what they agreed to. So I will have to go and speak to the legal people and get back to you on that. But I'm sure Mirka, who helped us with these events, can find out for you and let you know as soon as possible.
Super, thank you very much. Just I wasn't there from the beginning, so it will be helpful. Thank you.
Perfect. There we go. Mirka said the recording will be available as well as all non-confidential presentations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.